Hello everybody, we're here at RemoteCon with yet another very interesting product demo on remote work tools. Here with us now we have Toggl Plan, a project management software for busy managers. Toggl Plan, previously known as TeamWeek, is an easy-to-use visual planning tool. In Toggl Plan you can easily assign color codes, mark tasks as done, for an easy visual overview of who is doing what and when. You can plan project steps for a clear overview of when things need to be done, and follow up with task status. Use board views to prioritize tasks based on their current status, focusing on time estimations. Toggl Plan serves small and medium teams in need of better workflow management. It targets IT, design, marketing, and financial companies, as well as the associated departments within larger enterprises. Toggl, the mother company, was created in 2006 in Tallinn, Estonia, by Alari Aho, Ati Aho, and Kristev Hav. They built an online time tracking software specifically designed for freelancers, graphic designers, and consultants. Toggl Plan was built a couple of years later in 2017, and it started initially for internal use. For our demo here today, we have Ryan Prio, marketing team lead at Toggl Plan. Hello, Ryan. Nice to have you with us.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
So please tell us, Toggl Plan lets you keep the most important information all in one place. It's accessible for all stakeholders. How do you do that precisely, and how does it differ from any other project management tools that there are out there?
Yeah, sure. So great question. I think that one thing that we do best is provide a really great, simple, clear overview of work. We focus on making everything super easy to use, super simple, very nice to look at. We focus on that keyword is the overview. No clutter, a really easy way for anybody in the team, whether it be a manager, CEO, anybody at all, to get a really easy bird's eye view of what everybody's doing on any given day, week, month, year, that kind of thing. There's also shareable timelines that helps you communicate that with people outside of the organization, whether that be any kind of external stakeholder, a client, a director, board of directors, a contractor, anybody like that. I would say that overviews and that kind of bird's eye view is where we really excel.
So then show us more.
So what we're looking at here is the team timeline. So in Toggl Plan, you'll find three main views. Those are the team timeline, which we're looking at the moment, the plan timeline, which we'll come on to soon, and then also a plan board view. So we'll start here with the team timeline. So what we have is all of our people down the left-hand side, and then across the timeline, we have all of the days and dates and all of the people's work that's color-coded. So all of their tasks, all of their projects. And you will notice that in the sidebar here, we have multiple teams. So here I'm looking at the full team view. And we also have other teams. So for example, Henry is also in the design team. Sally is also in the editing team. My point being that you can create as many teams as you want, and people can be in any combination of teams, depending on how you want to view your capacity in terms of people. So this is a really great way of seeing what people are working on, how busy they are, how busy they aren't. So you can scroll forward into the future and see that maybe next week Ryan doesn't have any work on, so we need to prioritize around that. Maybe we need to make more sales, or maybe it might be the case that Alfie is overloaded. Obviously there's nothing there in this case, but it's just a demo workspace. Hopefully that makes sense. So before we move on, I'll show you what it looks like to create a task in Toggl Plan. So you can do this anywhere on any timeline or any board. So if we click in the timeline here, Monday the 22nd, and drag across, say we want it to last the full week till Friday the 26th, we can give this task a name. So we'll call it task 1. We can allocate it to any particular plan. So this belongs to project A in this case. We can type some notes in here. We can make a checklist of subtasks within this main task. We can upload files. We can either assign more people or maybe tag them in a comment. So we might want to say, hey, Sally, check this out, and she'll become a follower of this task and get email notifications when anything changes. And then we also have some other properties as well. I think it would be best if we come back to those at the end. So that's the basics of what a task looks like. And then once it's created, it'll be on the timeline you'll be able to track the progress. So if we check off a couple of these items, or one in this case, you can see that it's 25% of the way through. So yeah, so as I mentioned before, everything on here is color-coded. So if we then wanted to see all of the tasks that belong to client C, for example, they're all the green ones, we can switch the view and look at the client C timeline and see all of those in one place here, now regardless of who they're assigned to, but based on the project or the client in this case. So the easiest way to think about a plan is that it's a way to categorize tasks. So if you're an agency, you might use clients like this. You might also choose to use projects. It could be like a website redesign or something like that. If you're a product team, it might be a feature that you're building, any kind of way of categorizing tasks. So I'll move on to the boards view quickly and show you this. So if you've used any kind of anything like Trello or any kind of like Kanban board type tool, you'll be quite familiar with how this works. So you have customizable statuses along the top. You can click into these and type whatever you want. Each status has a corresponding emoji that is also customizable. You can click in and pick another one. You can create new statuses, all of that kind of stuff. You can add tags and filter by those tags that you've added. So in this case, it's a graphic design requests board as an example. We can choose to filter by everything that's graphic design for landing pages as an example, and just find those tasks real quick. So the real value in this though, of this boards view is the combination between the board and the timeline. So when you make changes on the board, they're then reflected in the timeline, and it brings us back to this thing that we keep talking about, which is the visual overview. So if you can imagine, once this board gets very full, it's very easy for things to get lost, and being able to switch over to the timeline and having a super clear visual overview of when things start and end and who they're assigned to and all that kind of stuff is really, really valuable. So you'll notice here that task 3 has the in progress emoji and task 4 has the pending approval emoji. You can change that either in the board by dragging a task from one column to another, or you can also do it with a right click here. So change it to pending approval. Or you can see that this is what it looks like if you mark a task as done. It will be faded out white. And then when you switch back to the board view, again, it's automatically reflected here. So I know we're going to be a little bit tight on time, so I'll go through a few other key features that I want to squeeze in. So one of them is the shareable timeline feature. So for any plan or any team, if you click this button here, you can create a shareable timeline. And as I was kind of mentioning earlier, this is super useful for anybody who's outside the organization. So you can send them this link and they can click on it and they'll be able to see this view-only timeline. So they can see everything that's going on with your plan. They can click into the tasks and see the subtasks, for example, but they can't change anything. And this is perfect for if you're working with a client or a contractor or maybe a board of directors or any kind of external stakeholder. You don't necessarily want to bring them into Toggl Plan, give them a user and a login, but you can still send this to any kind of stakeholder. So that's super useful. Another thing I'd like to point out quickly is zoom levels. So at the moment, we've defaulted to the monthly zoom level. You can use this magnifying glass to go out or in or out rather. So you can zoom in to look at a week, zoom out to look at 3 months or a year. So you can do that on the keyboard as well. So if I click Q, for example, I'll zoom out to look at the quarterly view. If I press W on the keyboard, I'll zoom in to the week view. And I've just pressed T to find today, just as a quick way to find where you are on the timeline. There's D for dark mode. So a lot of people prefer that. It doesn't change the functionality in any way. It's just a different way to look at it. And then we also have a quick search, which you can either click into here or do Control K if you're on Windows, Command K on Mac, and type anything that you want in here, find task 6, and it'll bring it straight up. So that's another really useful thing. So there's a few other bits and pieces that you'll find in Toggl Plan, but I think that's a quick overview of the main features and functionality. So did all that make sense? How are we doing for time?
We're very good, actually. Thank you for your presentation. It's actually very interesting. You at Toggl, from what I know, you're a remote first company yourself. It feels very much by the way you build the product that's some of the key elements that you had in mind. Okay, having overview of how the team looks like in terms of occupation and workload. Do you have anything that may be tracking, you're doing tasks as well, but do you have anything that may be tracking objectives or KPIs somehow, or taking that into account into this whole planning?
One thing that I would say about Toggl Plan in the context of remote teams especially, but everybody, is that it really encourages kind of transparency. Mm-hmm. So regardless of what it is that you're working on, so maybe it is that you're working on a really large project that has multiple elements to it. So yeah, that might be that you're using the checklist feature and there's multiple different milestones within a project. It's very easy for anybody, as we said, to look at the timeline or at the plan timeline or the team timeline, see what you're working on, and see how far you've got basically. So I think that's quite an important thing when it comes to tracking progress and objectives and transparency. There's a feature that I didn't show, which is milestones. In which case you can kind of flag up on the timeline that there's a deadline or a feature launch, or maybe a new employee starting, or maybe it's a date by which you're supposed to hit a target. So there's kind of ways like that that could become relevant. And I think kind of encouraging transparency and accountability is particularly useful for remote teams, being able to do that.
How have you seen the experience of a user in a platform? You have many situations in which you go into a platform, you start to use it for a month or two, and then in reality you still end up using Excel sheets or whatever communication over email or other chat channels. Do you have any maybe insights that you can share with us from the user experience?
Yeah, good question. And I think that I would probably dare to say that we fare better than most with that regard. And I think that does come back to this whole thing about that we focus on making it a breeze to use. It's intended that you don't need to spend a lot of time to use Toggl Plan. So maybe you're not a project manager, you haven't had project management training, you don't want to add a lot of admin work for your team to actually go in and keep this tool up to date every day. And I think that's one of the really common reasons as to why someone would start to use a project management tool and then go back to the way they were working before, whether that be pen and paper or whiteboards or Excel spreadsheets and things. It's simply because it just takes too much time to keep it updated and people just can't be bothered. So I think from that regard, that's something that we do really well in. And it is a habit that people can develop very quickly, is to load up the timeline on the board in the morning. They get a daily overview email, or you can choose to opt into a daily overview email, which sends every morning, that shows you all the tasks that you have to do that day, any milestones that are coming up, that kind of stuff. So of course it isn't for everybody, and if there's ever a reason why people would choose not to use Toggl Plan, it's probably because there's not enough functionality, and that is also intentional. I know that people will probably wonder, why use Toggl Plan over something else like Monday.com or Asana or some of the more complex tools. And we are, again, intentionally a more lightweight tool. We have fewer features, we're easier to use. The learning curve is almost non-existent. It's very simple to get started, very accessible for people that are not very tech savvy. If you actually need all the functionality that something like Monday.com offers, then you're not necessarily our target market. I would say that there is certainly circumstances where someone would start to use it and enjoy it, but find that there's potentially something missing, some more complex feature that we don't offer. Yeah.
If you can take us a bit briefly through the pricing as well, for us to understand, how would it take for a team of 10 or 20 or however to kind of onboard in the platform?
Yeah, sure. So the pricing is super transparent, super straightforward. We have a really good free version, so that is for teams of up to 5. So teams of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they can use the free version forever, and there's no caps on that with regards to the number of teams or projects or tasks or anything. And if you upgrade, the premium version comes with some extra features. It's also required for teams of 6 or more. and that's priced at $9 per user per month. So again, super straightforward. The more people you have on board, the more you pay. And the premium features include things like, so you can have like custom colors to color code your timeline. You get like an extra zoom level, so you can zoom out all the way to the annual view as well as quarterly, monthly, and weekly. There's a file upload size limit on the free version, which is increased on the premium version. There's the ability to multi-assign tasks, so have tasks assigned to multiple people at once, and a couple of other things. So yeah, the premium version is used by teams of 5+ and also, over 5, and also teams of a smaller team that would like the premium features. Yeah, but $9 per user per month paid monthly, and $8 per user per month paid annually. It's the short version.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you for walking through the platform and answering our questions. So there we go. After Toggl and Toggl Hire, this Estonian company seems to be on a strike of good software as a service products. Simplicity is at the base of every product they do, because simplicity is what creates daily habits. Make sure you try it out and tell us your feedback. Check into RemoteCon for more information on remote work tools. Thank you.